We're both young. I mean, we wanted to live close to the city, and so we just decided, going the single family route and making it work for us would be the best way.
It's mainly about sacrifices. I tell people all the time, house hacking is mainly how much are you willing to sacrifice of your personal space to basically live for free.
Welcome to the House Hacking Success Podcast, where you'll learn the path to free rent and financial freedom through real estate. Featuring your hosts, Brad Labrie and Drew Klingler.
What's up, everybody? It's your host, Bradley Labrie, and today I want to talk about the podcast sponsor, Rentometer. Whether you already have an established rental business or analyzing your first rental deal, you know that getting the rent right is crucial to lowering investment risk and optimizing your rental income. That's why the go-to source for rent data is Rentometer. Property investors and property managers rely on Rentometer because it is the fastest and easiest way to access quality rent data for addresses and neighborhoods anywhere in the United States. You can also research current local comps, trends, and property data. Don't take our word for it. Rentometer analyzes over 500,000 rents per month and gets rave reviews from customers. My property manager, myself, and my clients all use Rentometer anytime we are looking to purchase a new property to know exactly what we can get for our properties. Go to rentometer.com today to get your 7-day free trial and save up to 60%. Grow your rental business smarter with Rentometer.
What's up, everybody? Real quick before we start the show. If you go down to the description or the show notes for this podcast episode, there's a link, and that's going to send you to a page that you can download our free ebook on. This ebook is really good. Brad wrote it, and it covers everything that you need to know about house hacking in a very structured order so you can put all the pieces together. All right, enjoy the show.
Welcome to House Hacking Success. Today we have Dave and Arvi on the show. We appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely. So this is the first show we've had with wholesalers on here. I work with quite a few in my market. It's a great niche. It's one of the easy ways to get into real estate investing because it doesn't take your own money. It doesn't take your own credit. It's a way to network within the industry, gain a list of flippers and buy and hold investors and really learn the business from an outside perspective without needing your own cash. So we really appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Let's start with your house hacking story or maybe your origin stories into real estate. Tell us what brought you two together and then sort of the real estate aspect of all of that.
Yeah, so this is Arvi. Dave and I met in college when we were living back in Buffalo, New York. I was just graduating at the time and was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I always thought it was going to be in the corporate world. So I started looking at jobs, applying probably at 100 positions that I could, find online, and I didn't get any responses back whatsoever. So I was freaking out a little bit, what I was like, what was I going to do? And I was talking to my dad on the phone, and he actually brought up real estate to me and was like, maybe look into it. I know people that do flips and make a lot of money. So see, maybe there's a way to get started. So that's what I did. I started researching. And then, ever since then, I kind of got hooked in everything that I found online and just kind of jumped in right after that.
Yeah, for me, I started right after college. I was a student athlete in college. Right after college, I coached for a year down in Florida. And at that time, she bought, I think, 1 or 2 flips. And she was having troubles managing her flips, basically, because the contractors were taking advantage. So she asked me to come up for like a month or 2, and I did in the summertime. And I saw the potential, and I saw how I can help grow the business. So I decided to leave that career, the coaching career behind, and just decided to hop into the real estate as well.
Perfect. Let's go into that first house hack that you guys did. Kind of describe that, what that looked like, and what it meant to you guys.
My first year, I bought 2 flips, and then I was looking for something else. I found this property that was right downtown Buffalo, super great area. It was in terrible, terrible condition. It had actually been listed on the MLS for over 2 years, and nobody had touched it. And I don't know why, but I really loved the location, and it was really up and coming area. At the time, it was a single family, so when we looked at it, it was more like, all right, let's go in and flip it. But once we bought the property, I was talking to David at the time, I discovered online the house hacking where people could live in one space, rent out the other or something like that. And because the location was so good, we could Airbnb it and make more than just regular rental income. So I told Dave, hey, why don't we see if we can get this into a duplex, because it was a huge property around like 2,500 square feet. The area was allowed for duplexes, so we were able to convert it. And from there, we did a lot of work into it. And we stayed on one side, and then we were Airbnb-ing the back side.
Perfect. So let's talk a little about that, converting a property from a single family to a duplex. So what was that process like going through the city?
Surprisingly, it was pretty easy. Honestly, we kind of looked in the area because those houses were pretty big. In total, the square footage of this house was about 3,000.
No, 2,500.
2,500 square feet.
Yeah.
And we were looking around, there was a couple of big houses in the area, and we started asking around, and our neighbors started telling us that they're Airbnb a part of their house. And there's on both sides of our neighbors. So we started realizing there must be a way to separate one side from the other. So we went to the county, and they even told us that at what time this was a triplex. From that point on, we knew we can easily convert it to a duplex. So it took about a week just by asking, filling out some paperwork, and
we had to do some architectural drawings just to make sure, how it was going to be divided. The city required that. And I think that was like the hardest part of the process because we didn't realize how expensive architects and engineers are. Mm-hmm. But we were able to find somebody that could kind of fit our budget at the time and, do the drawing for us. We submitted them to the city. They approved everything right away. And then we just kind of kept going from there.
Perfect. So the zoning was already in place, which made that process a lot easier. And I know a lot of investors that actually just hunt out properties that have the particular zoning they're looking for. So yeah, it makes the process a lot easier.
Yeah, honestly, we didn't know anything about zonings at the time. So I think we kind of got lucky in the sense that the zoning allowed for a duplex because we didn't do any of that research beforehand.
Perfect. So walk us through sort of beyond that. I mean, getting your first place, probably coming close to living free, probably allowed you to free up a lot of money to reinvest or build the business that you have now. Talk a little bit through that.
Yeah, so we bought the property at $90,000 at the time. As I said, it needed a lot of work. We kind of actually didn't even know how much work it needed, until we started ripping everything apart. And
I walked through the house and I said, "No way in hell I'm buying this house. Like we can't afford it. We can't. We don't have the money for the rehab." And while we're walking through the house, she whispers in my ear, "Dave, we already bought the house. Like it's already
we're under contract.
We're under contract.
Can't go back." But it appraised at $250,000. So we got a mortgage on the property. We actually went with the conventional way. We didn't go the the FHA way. So we just kind of took the easy way out and refinanced it to like 80% of ARV. Pulled that money out. We Airbnb the backside because it was a front and back duplex, and the backside was bringing around $1,600 a month through Airbnb, which is only a bedroom apartment, which was great, honestly. Our mortgage was right at around $1,200. With all insurance and expenses, I think it added up to $1,500. So we technically had a little bit extra every month or so, because sometimes the Airbnb, kind of goes up and down, and sometimes it was like $2,000 a month, sometimes it was $1,500 or $1,600. So most of the time we were, up over all our expenses were in. So that kind of even paid for our utilities, honestly.
Yeah. So money we used from our first two flips. So this house hack we did was going on while the two flips were finishing up.
Yeah.
With the profit from the two flips we did and being able to live for free for that 1 year, we decided to invest all that money into marketing. And that's when we kind of started doing the wholesaling part.
So let's step back and touch on two things we sort of glazed over. You talked about purchasing it for 90 and putting 90 into it. Talk through the financing side of that. And I'm sure a lot of people are interested. And then we'll go into the Airbnb side, like what that actually looks like for those that are wondering.
Yeah. So honestly, at the time, I didn't know about the FHA part where there were certain loan programs where you can put only 2.5% or 3% down. So we just kind of went the route we knew, which was a financial or conventional lending. We found a bank that was willing to work with us. As I said, they appraised it for $250,000 when we were doing the renovations, and they just gave us 80% of that, which I think ended up at around $180,000. Yeah. Which we kind of pulled all our money back in terms of like purchase and rehab, but we left around $10,000 in, which was a holding cost, during the time.
And the funding part we used a hard money lender.
Yeah, to reduce by it.
And that's the question people always ask is like, how do you get people to lend it to you because you don't really have that much experience? What we kind of did to come up as actual business, we created a credibility packet, listing our goals, our vision, and our past projects, what we have done, some connections that we have, so to keep that lender informed. Yeah. And make it seem like, not make it seem, but we are legit. Tell them that we are legit.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Brendan Bennett from Fund That Flip was on the podcast earlier and kind of spoke to that, what is happening through coronavirus and the fact that they're still lending and building that credibility is important. And hard money is can be a great way to go, especially in a situation like you guys had. And the fact that you were able to pull the majority of your money out at the end. The Airbnb side, a lot of people talk about it or consider it. It's obviously a very reputable business. What did that look like at first going into it? You didn't know anything about it. Like, what were those steps? How do you teach or talk to people considering it in a city like Buffalo across the country?
Yeah, so honestly, in the beginning, everything was manual. We were even doing the cleaning ourselves. I mean, obviously, we designed the area and we furnished it ourselves. However, while doing it, it was a lot of work. Like, it kind of needed you there constantly because you had turnovers every 2 to 3 days. So we had to find a way to systemize it. We found some softwares online. The one we particularly used was IGMS. Which was free for like your first 2 properties, so it worked great for us. It automated like the welcome messages, like the check-in, the checkouts, and all that stuff. So it took a huge part out of our hands. And then while doing the cleaning up for ourselves for a little bit, we decided to hire that out as well. And I think at the time we were charging like $60 for the cleaning, and the lady we found was only charging us $35. So we had a little bit extra on top of that as well.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic way to go. And a lot of the times, like you said, you can actually make more money per month, Airbnb. And if you create those systems and, for a $250,000 property, the fact that, you are, I believe you were a few $100, $300 or $400 over what your mortgage payment was. And like you said, that was the utility. And so you're legitimately living for free and potentially even making a little bit of money.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it covered all our insurance, taxes. We're putting money away for that. And as you said, like utilities as well. So it was, I think what really was great about it was the location, because we were right downtown and everything was walkable at the time.
So let's touch on maybe the mental hurdles on something like this, right? Because obviously there's a level of confidence you guys had, or maybe you're like me and I was naive to all the things that could go wrong, because I did a lot of similar things early on, like you. I mean, you had 2 flips, you're taking on hard money. Those are a lot of objections that people have. Just talk to a little bit of that. Like, what do you think it was that allowed you to have that level of confidence to do something like that?
Honestly, Dave and I are opposites in that side. I'm a little bit like you, where I'm naive, and I'm like, you know what, we'll just figure it out while we're doing it. What could go wrong, right? It's just a house.
Yeah.
For Dave, on the other hand, before we even bought it, he was asking me all these questions. I was like, Dave, I don't know. We'll figure it out. So I kind of convinced him on the figuring out part. And then once we got it, I mean, there was a lot of issues that came up that we weren't prepared. We actually had to move out of my apartment at the time because my lease was up and the house wasn't ready. So we had to live, mid-renovations.
Yeah, so we did a live and flip technically as well.
Yeah. So it was definitely very challenging. It also tested our relationship, because this was the first house that we worked together and we were doing a lot of work, like personally on the house as well. So it was definitely very, very challenging for us mentally. And I think when we were done with that, it was like, we're never doing this again, or at least at that level, like we had to be more organized and more systemized for the next one.
Yeah, for sure. So talk about that with the relationship side of things. Like, what does that look like? You said you got challenged a little bit. How did you overcome those challenges? In retrospect, how do you help coach or speak to people trying to do this together with a partner, like their significant other?
It's pretty it's crazy you ask, because we get that question a lot. But imagine 2 people starting something but have no idea what they're doing, but they still have a strong personality. So that was us from the start. Mm-hmm. We had both had a strong personality of, no, I'm right, you're wrong. And I think that's how we clashed a lot. For the first 4 months while we were in real estate, our personal relationship was kind of non-existent, because everything we did, everything we talked about, we worked our butts off every day in real estate. So going back to that, we basically decided to give each other tasks. Say, Dave, you're fully responsible of the rehab side, analyzing budgets for the rehabs and coming up with some exit strategies. And she has her own tasks when it comes to creating leads, managing the acquisition manager now. So creating that kind of puts in more confidence on each side.
Yeah, separating the tasks was definitely, I think, key for us in terms of making our personal and business relationship work. And also the other thing, which is so simple, but yet again, it's like hard to do, is communication.
Perfect. So after that house hack, did you go right into building the business of wholesaling, or did you buy other properties? Kind of walk through your story beyond that house hack.
What's up, everybody? Let's take a quick minute and talk about Rent Ready. Are you new to house hacking and wondering how you find tenants and collect rent? Especially while trying to maintain professional boundaries and a shared living space? Rent Ready can help you manage your house hack setup. For less than $9 a month, you can do it all. Fill rooms quickly with sites like Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist with a free professionally designed listing page. Find high-quality tenants with TransUnion certified background checks, electronically send, signed, and store leases, and collect rent for the entire lease or set up month-to-month charges. For your tenants, they use RentReady's app to complete the application, sign their lease, and pay you rent. They can even submit maintenance requests from the app instead of knocking on your door. Even better, RentReady is unlimited, so you don't have to pay per unit or per tenant. Just one flat price, which puts more money in your pocket. And speaking of putting more money in your pocket, RentReady has given our listeners a discount to get 50% off any RentReady plan when you sign up using our special code SUCCESS at rentredi.com. That's RENTREDI.com using code SUCCESS for 50% off any RentReady plan. All right, let's get back to the episode.
So after that house hack, did you go right into building the business of wholesaling, or did you buy other properties? Kind of walk through your story beyond that house hack.
So once we did that house hack and we lived in it for about 3 or 4 months, I believe, I actually came to visit here in Nashville, and I really loved the area. I thought it had great potential in real estate and a lot of potential to make money because everything was developing. So one way or another, I convinced Dave to move here with me, and we decided we wanted to do the same thing, house hack, as we were doing there, because we really loved it. I mean, we were living for free and we weren't ready at the time to be paying for expenses, mortgage and everything out of our pocket. So we started looking for properties down here. We actually were looking on the MLS with an agent because we didn't really know a lot, and our time was restricted because we decided we were going to move here in about 3 months. So we were looking for duplexes in the beginning, and everything was super expensive here, not the same as the Buffalo market. And we decided on finding a single family property. It was like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath where we could maybe section off a part of the house and just Airbnb that as well. So we were able to find a single family property that had the master bedroom towards the backyard. So we were just able to, kind of keep the door closed there, put like a deadlock, opened up a wall to have an entrance towards the backyard, and just kind of Airbnb that master bedroom and bath as like a little studio.
We had to get a little creative, and Nashville luckily has the opportunity that most of the houses in the city have an alley in the back.
Yeah.
So we figured the best way an Airbnb can be successful is, surprisingly, if the tenant or the guest doesn't see the owner. They don't want to interact with the owner. So we decided to put a back door in, build a nice deck, and they have their own entrance and their own parking in the back.
Perfect. So I love the fact that you guys are targeting these properties to Airbnb. I think it's a very untapped market in as far as like house hacking. A lot of people, attempt to just get a duplex, but there are a lot of opportunity, and especially in the era of COVID, if you can find properties, like you said, sectioned off, in different sides of the house and stuff. A lot of people are looking to get out of their particular areas, whether they're in a city, an apartment, and they want to go out into, broader sections of the city and the outskirts. I think it's a really untapped market. So I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're both young. I mean, we wanted to live close to the city, and here in Nashville, the city is really expensive. So we just decided, going the single family route and making it work for us would be the best way.
It's mainly about sacrifices. I tell people all the time, house hacking is mainly how much are you willing to sacrifice of your personal space to basically live for free.
Yeah. For sure. And with, we have a shortage of affordable housing. And so it really allows for us to provide that to our tenants. Generally speaking, we provide better housing than the traditional model because we take care of our property and we live there, and we put a lot more love into it when you buy a property. So, that's why we're so passionate about it. I think it really helps our generation, because a lot of housing is unaffordable for the beginner, especially young couples like yourself. And it really allows us to provide a great product. And like you said, it's sacrifice, but if you look at it a long term, you can still get to your end goal, but it's just a stepping stone to get there.
Absolutely. And that's the mindset we had to shift to. So, I mean, it's not fun, like living in a smaller space where you had to share and this and that, and be quiet because the guests are sleeping or this and that. But like you said, we were focused on the bigger goal and the bigger vision. So we made that work.
Perfect. So let's transition into that. The bigger goal, you have a company now. It's a wholesaling company. Describe a little bit of what that actually means. There might be a lot of people that don't know what wholesaling actually is.
So we decided that one of the best ways for us to, keep achieving those goals that we said, like the bigger goal is to do a lot of these properties in scaling in a bigger scale. So one of those like easier strategies to get started into is wholesaling, which technically means you put a property under contract and you sell that contract to an end buyer that's an investor like ourselves, and they either want to flip it or keep it as a rental.
Kind of go into your story, you're with the wholesaling company, take it from starting from the bottom, probably just you two. Now you say you have an acquisitions manager, potentially other people within the organization. Talk about what that looks like and what it's grown to.
Yeah, so when we started, we were doing everything we could to try to get as many leads as we could with little money. So we tried, cold calling, driving for dollars, trying to get some leads in. And it was a lot of practice for us as well to talk to these sellers, off market, because that was our main goal. To get the best deals possible for us was just going direct to seller instead of going through agents. So that's what we started doing. And then from there, we kind of transitioned a little bit into doing direct mailing. And we decided, it's expensive. It's not easy to do or cheap to do direct mailing, but we decided to put some money aside, and if we're consistent, focused, and we really work those leads, we were going to get something out of it. So that's what we did. We started getting deals out of it that we wholesaled. We started with like one and then another one the next month, and then again another one, and then from there we could build enough capital to do a lot more direct mailing and kind of double our budget on that, so to the point where we got into like 2 to 3 deals a month. And that's where we had a lot of leads in the system, and we decided that the best way was to hire an acquisitions manager to handle those leads for us.
Perfect. So what kind of number? I think David mentioned 500 mailers a week, and a percentage of those, transition into leads. And then from there, I'm sure a smaller percentage transition into actual offers and accepted offers. What does that sort of look like?
So like he said, we were doing 500 a week in the beginning, and we learned like that the average was every 2,500 letters you sent, or 2,000 to 2,500, you would get a deal. And honestly, that's exactly what happened with us in the Nashville market as well. We sent about 2,500 letters, we got a deal, and then we sent more letters, and then we got another deal on those 2,500, and then we decided to kind of double that and mix in other forms of marketing like Google Ads to try to get more exposure for the business itself and the brand. And then that was bringing in leads sporadically, so we were getting some deals off of Google Ads, and then again with marketing we upped it to like 4,000 a month now at the time, and then we were getting 2 to 3 deals from there.
Perfect. So kind of to the listeners out there, because most of them, the majority of people haven't gotten their first deal. A lot of them, Dave, are a little bit more geared like yourself. I know my wife is a lot similar to you, Dave. They just they think everything through, which is a good thing. Right. And maybe aren't quite as naive as Arvi and I are in regards to just going into it and figuring it out. How do you advise them to approach wholesalers? Because I know majority of wholesalers sell directly to cash buyers and investors and things of that nature. And so it's challenging for somebody who's trying to get an FHA sometimes to put somebody under contract. How do you advise them to approach a couple like yourselves who have a really successful wholesaling company and are trying to find off-market deals for themselves?
It's tricky because most of the time when we close on a deal, we have about 10 days to find a buyer. But however, for example, now we have a deal in our CRM and we're closing on it in March. So we have from now, it's on a contract with us right now, but we have till from now till March to find a buyer. So sometimes wholesalers have these properties where we have a month or two to find a potential buyer, or figure out what we're going to do with the property. So reaching out to wholesalers without people at the time that's where you're going to get the best deals. That's where you're going to get the deals with the most meat on the bones.
Right. And I think the only way to really do that is, just find some wholesalers, talk to them about your goals. And then if they have a property like we have, where it's going to take 2 or 3 months to even close, because those happen, all the time, maybe it could be a good fit for, a house hacker to find something and get an FHA loan on it. So it's not super often, I'd say, but it can be doable to talk to as many wholesalers as you can to get that, to get into those leads. And then another way is, I know a lot of wholesalers that do, seller financing or some type of like long-term financing, like creative stuff. So maybe there's a way that they can work with them either through creative financing or try to get an FHA loan or something like that, to try.
For sure. Let's talk first to the people looking for you, right, in your market, somebody like that, trying to find a deal like that. How do you advise them to approach wholesalers? Because obviously wholesalers are not created equal. There are people that are good in the industry, and there are a lot that aren't so good. And their numbers may be wrong. They don't project the right ARV, or maybe it's inflated. They under project the amount of renovations. How do you suggest they approach and try to find a good wholesaler to work with?
So honestly, the way we founded wholesalers before we were wholesalers ourselves was, the Craigslist way, which, just kind of find there, we buy houses and then a bunch of companies will show up. We also went to a lot of networking events before COVID hit. Anything, in-person events we were going to and just networking as much as we could. And now with COVID, we were doing a lot of that stuff online, like through Facebook groups. I feel like every market has at least a real estate investing Facebook group, and a lot of people, network there. So even now, we ask a lot of questions on there, like, hey, I'm looking for this type of property. Or for example, you can post a question on there and say, I'm trying to house hack a property. If you think there's something that comes up, in one of your leads that could fit this criteria, reach out to us. And like you said, it's going to be trial and error. Not every wholesaler is good. And we've bought from wholesalers before that have brought us good deals. And then the same wholesaler will bring us bad deals.
Yeah.
So you just got to make sure you analyze your deals, yourself. And just because one deal that they brought you is good doesn't mean that all of them are going to be good.
And wholesalers are not complicated. I think the best way to approach them and to let them know you're serious is probably just by asking them to add them to your buyers list. A wholesaler, that's like a dream come true. Like, somebody wants to be on my buyers list, go ahead, send them their email, and then every month when they get deals, they send out their deals to the buyers list.
Cool. So let's talk now to maybe the second half of our audience that might be intrigued by wholesaling. They're younger. We get a lot of people with like 1099 income, right? So it's challenging to qualify for traditional financing the way that a lot of people with W-2 income do. So they gravitate to wholesaling. They like the idea. They want to get in the industry. They want to connect with people. They want to be able to find properties for traditional investors. How do you suggest somebody get involved in this industry?
Honestly, first of all, it depends on the position you're in. Like, you either, like you said, maybe if you don't have a W-2 and you're just at 1099, the best way is to try to do marketing like the cheapest way possible, like we did in the beginning, where you can either drive for dollars, do call calling or messages, pull some lists on PropStream or ListSource, which are like relatively cheap, and then you can either call those or text, or even drive around the neighborhoods, or try to even door knock. If that's in your personality, because it takes a little bit of personality as well.
Yeah, we tell people all the time, like, it kind of goes around with combines with financial situation and your personality.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to wholesaling, it's more about creating leads, and you have inbound leads and outbound leads. We rely mainly now on inbound leads. People that we send out letters, we have like Facebook ads out, and people call us because they might be interested. But if your personality is more outgoing and you have no hesitation to go knock on some doors or make calls every day, then by all means, that's your personality, and that's probably the area where you're going to be more successful in.
Cool. And now, those are getting leads. How about getting the right buyers list, right? Like, I'm sure in your industry, and I talk to a lot of wholesalers, there are good potential buyers, and there are people that are more just tire kickers, which are probably make up the majority of your list. How do you find the actual investors within your community?
Yeah, so honestly, when it comes to the buyers list, the more the better, obviously, because it's a numbers game. Like, you get a buyer this month, maybe the same buyer's not ready to purchase another property in a month. So you got to have volume. For us, which honestly is super simple, we don't do anything, out of this world. It's all about networking, talking to as many, investors as we can, trying to find maybe cash buyers in your area. Like, you'll see sometimes like bandit signs, we'll call them and say, hey, if you're looking for market deals, I can put you on my list. So just getting creative to talking to people as much as you can. Honestly, that's all it comes down to.
Perfect. Kind of in retrospect now, you've built up a portfolio yourself. How many flips have you done now? You did those initial 2?
Yes. So this year we did about 15 deals, and it was a mixture of flips and wholesales, which I think we did about 5 flips, and the rest was wholesale deals.
Probably.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So what would you tell yourself, several years ago when you were getting started? Like, what would you speak to your former younger self? What is some advice and wisdom you've learned along the way?
I would start off by, I would say, relationship-wise. If you're combining business with your personal relationship, make sure that you're on the same page, because we've read stories about relationships getting ruined by the business side, and one thing we told each other is that we're not going to have that problem, and we did have that problem almost in the beginning. So being able to set aside tasks and make sure By setting aside tasks, you're going to trust each other more, and the process is going to be way smoother.
And for me, I'd say, trust yourself in the process. Don't get frustrated. Things always are going to go wrong because it's just the way the business is. You're going to find something that you didn't have in your budget, or, something comes up that you were not expecting. So just trust the process, be calm about it, and trust yourself as well that you're going to get over, on the other side of it.
Yeah, for sure. So let's ask this question, because we like asking every guest. I mean, the 80-20 rule applies to a lot of things, and it really seems to apply to investing, house hacking, I'm sure wholesaling. I'm certain that you guys probably get a lot of people reaching out to you wanting to join your team or become a wholesaler, but it seems like only a really small fraction, like the 20%, actually execute on that, actually do what it takes to get into the industry. What separates people to actually decide to house hack and execute on that from those that just tire kick?
Honestly, it just comes down to your goals and your vision. A lot of people make excuses and they think that they're valid excuses. Whereas, like you said, the 20%, they say, you know what, no matter what comes in my way and what excuses I have, I'm just going to overcome those and actually do it. And it also comes down to your why. How strong is your why? Why are you doing this? So again, it just comes, I think it's mostly like an inside thing that if you really want it and you want it bad enough, you're going to find a way to do it.
Perfect. And what is that why for you both?
Yeah, for us, honestly, it was just being able to, when we were, or I'll speak for myself, when I was growing up, it was always like, we'd do something and it's like, okay, that's it, because we don't have enough money to do the other thing. So this whole time I'm chasing of getting rid of we don't have enough money to do the next thing. So that's my why.
Yeah, my wife's kind of similar to that. Just knowing growing up that my dad and mom went to work every day from 9 to 5 and didn't complain, didn't say anything, just made sure I got what I needed basically growing up. But at certain times it was, no, we can't spend money on this because we have to spend it in a different way. And they would explain that to me. And now having the opportunity to make a lot of money, and I'm just being honest, I think a lot of people in the real estate world are shy to say it, but I'm just trying to get rich. We're trying to get rich where we can take care of our family and actually get the things that we never even thought about getting when we were younger.
Perfect. And it sounds like you mentioned that you were an athlete in college. It sounds like a lot of this correlates. We had recently a professional NFL tight end on the podcast who had house hacked around all the cities. I know I played football in college, and we talked extensively in that podcast about the sort of mindset that sports cultivate and translate directly into investing. And it sounds like a lot of that is correlating between your time playing college, and I'm not sure exactly what sport, but it sounds like a lot of those correlate.
That's true.
Yeah, absolutely. Dave is great at organizing teams and training when it comes to when we hired our acquisitions manager. He's really good at that because he learned it from the sports side, and I've never really been involved in sports. I'm not sure of, the environment and the team aspect of it, but he's great at doing that. So like you said, it really correlates to a lot of things in life.
And what sport was that, Dave?
Basketball. Had no choice.
Perfect. Yeah, we've actually met a lot of athletes, professional athletes that actually house hack around the country. And that's something that I've turned my focus on is highlighting that, because most people, first of all, don't know the concept of house hacking. Second of all, how common it is within the sports community and as well as the arts community. My co-host was a professional bowler, and he had just run out of money. He's like, I can't bowl anymore. I got to figure out a way. He met me and I introduced him to house hacking and was able to continue bowling, And so that's another thing that sometimes we don't highlight enough on the show is what it can provide on the back end. Like, it allows you to live for free like you did in Buffalo, to chase whatever it is. In your case, it was your why, becoming rich to provide for your family so you don't have to, go and want. But it can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people.
Absolutely. You can use it a variety of different ways. And I think a lot of people do it. They're just not conscious that it's called house hacking.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Sometimes it's instinctive, right? To attempt to lower our expenses. So what about books or podcasts, specifically in business and mindset, not necessarily related to business or real estate? What are those things that have sort of shaped your mindset, or maybe a favorite of yours?
So I'll tell you mine. I actually read the E-Myth, but it was the real estate investing, what do they call, a sequence. So that book, I read it when I was still starting, and I was trying to get my mind around, how does this work, either with house hacking or trying to build it as a business. So that was a great book to kind of think about it into working on a business instead of you working it yourself.
Yeah, I'm not really a reader like that. I'm trying to get to that point. But one book I read that was really good to me was Where's My Cheese?
Who moved my
Or Who
cheese?
Moved My Cheese? Sorry, that book really did a lot to me. And I'm really starting to like Clubhouse a lot, to be honest. I know it's maybe in the early phases, but I'm learning a lot, little nuggets here and there. It's definitely worth it.
Yeah, for sure. That book is a very easy read too. It's short. You can probably read it in an afternoon. But great book. Clubhouse. You and I were on earlier today talking. I think the vision of it is, you had mentioned Arvi earlier, the fact that pre-COVID you were going out and networking. Clubhouse in a lot of ways allows us to network within our community. Here in Metro Detroit, we have meetups on there for people within our local markets. And so I think the idea, as you said, it's in early stages, but it's a way to network within hopefully our markets, and for you guys find potential leads of people buying, but then also just network together and become that form of house hacking or podcasting and reading and things like that, as you mentioned, Dave.
Yeah, for sure.
What about real estate specific podcast or book?
Podcast, I mean, honestly, we always listen to Bigger Pockets as a podcast. I think there's always great value there. Other real estate books, I've read a lot, but honestly, not a lot like real estate related. I've always been worried about like trying to build it as a business instead of me working in it. So I've always read a lot of business books. But one of the main ones in real estate, as I said, was the E-Myth. And there's also some Bigger Pockets books that are out there that are great to get started. I did read the house hacking book. I forgot the name of the author, but he worked in the bigger.
Greg Curlap.
Yes,
He's
yeah.
Good friend of mine.
Yeah, so I read that when we're trying to house hack, so that definitely helped a lot as well. I don't know, do you have any?
Podcasts, we should just kind of find out if you're trying to get into wholesaling. Wholesale Hotline. I know there's a couple people on there. Guy, I forgot his name, forgive me, but TTP.
Yeah, Jamil and Pace Morby, they talk about some creative financing and things like that.
So I'm really started enjoying that. They go live, I think, on YouTube, and they post it and stuff like that. So
on podcasts, yeah.
Perfect. So before we wrap up here, anything you'd like to add within your story or for the listeners out there? Like I said, there's a lot of different people in different stages. Some people are going to be drawn to this from the wholesaling aspect. Some people are drawn to this because they're trying to get into house hack, or some are just trying to grow a business. So anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'll say on my side, just be focused on whatever your goal is. We get a lot of like shiny object syndrome where, somebody tells you about this and you're like kind of, oh, that's nice. I'll jump into that because it can be tempting, with the money aspect of it. But, just think about your goals, stay focused and consistent on those. And honestly, I don't see a reason for you not to succeed if you're staying focused and consistent in what you're doing.
For me, I'm trying to maybe bring in a more actionable step. For us, when we started, money was kind of the issue. And we solved it by just creating a little packet, a credibility packet. And we actually have that packet available in our bio for free for everybody that wants to use that as well. For private lending, yes.
Perfect. Yeah, send us that over. We'll add it in the show notes. But I do like that, Arvi, the shiny object syndrome. That was something that people like you and I certainly have. Dave, can probably relate as well. It's very easy, right? I mean, Bitcoin was a thing in 2017. It's a thing again, right? There's just all sorts of things you can get yourself into, and wholesaling is a huge rabbit hole because there's a million different ways to go within it. There are a lot of different applications, things that you can pay, marketing styles as a realtor, within a brokerage and stuff like that. It's very similar. There's just a lot of ways to do a lot of different things. And if you don't have a focus, like you said, on the priorities, it can be overwhelming and you can go in a lot of different ways and never really get rolling. And that's why we are so passionate about house hacking, because I think it's the mental barrier to entry that is the bigger thing than anything to get into investing, and the fact that you're moving into it anyway, I think lowers that barrier. Because if you're throwing 20% down on a place you don't move into, there's a lot of mental hurdles you got to jump over.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, honestly, a lot of people, like you said, if you don't focus enough on one thing, then you're going to have like 5 different things that are just like kind of side hobbies. You're not going to be fully in one thing to try to do it as a business.
And then you have people asking you, so what do you actually do? When you get that question of people asking, what do you actually do? Then you're kind of all over the place.
Yeah, for sure. So for people looking to follow your story, follow up on wholesaling, where can people find more about you?
So I'm on Instagram at arvi.karkanji, CARKANJI.
And you can find me on Instagram as well, dave.arlaud, ARLAUD. And you can also find us on our website. It's called moneymakingduo.com.
Cool. So I really appreciate you coming on. I know you added a lot of value. I'm certain that we're going to get a great response to this. A lot of people reaching out, hopefully within the community. I love your story. I love the balance you two bring to each other as well, and that seems to be the case with all these duos, so to speak, within the industry, is that one is sort of more geared like Arvi and I, that is a little bit naive to the downside, but then there's somebody that is focusing on the downside. Yeah, and there's a power to that, because you need to be able to have a focus on not only the upside to situations, but also minimizing the risk in the downside, and that's sort of the power within it if you're going to grow something sustainable.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for having us again.
Absolutely. You guys have a great day.
Thanks, you too.